right. So, um, I'm sure that obviously, since all of you are region directors and Reflection Chair, you are familiar with what Reflections is. There are obviously 6 areas of reflections of the arts: dance choreography, film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. Those are all the different areas. We'll cover them a little tonight. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail tonight. That's what we'll a lot more in detail about those because I know there's a lot of questions. This year's theme is I Belong, which is a really exciting theme and something that I think is just, it speaks to all these children so much. I think there's a lot for children that they can relate to when it comes to that theme, and find ways to portray that through different forms of art. And I think it's an exciting one. And I think the fact that that was selected is just a wonderful, wonderful way to celebrate the arts this year. So when you are speaking to your units about getting involved this year, where do PTA units begin? Because that's been the biggest question that we've had. I've been contacted by a lot of units asking me questions. I've obviously, many of you probably have heard back from them. I've been referring them back to all of you. The first thing, obviously, that units need to do is register on the National PTA website. That's the very first piece of advice to give them, is to make sure they know that they have to be registered to participate. Here, there are 2 QR codes, as you can see. These are for you if you'd like to be able to screenshot them. They take you to the links. One is for national and one is for New York State, that give you the how-to guides with a little bit more information. If you don't have that information already, you're welcome to use it from here and just use your phone and screenshot that. That will also be when we post this to the New York State website. This will be available on there as well. So you'll be able to get those from there. So the first thing that the units need to answer to is whether they're in good standing. Any unit that's not in good standing is not going to be able to participate at all. So really, if they contact you and they have questions about participating, that's the first piece of advice that you want to give them and you want to review with them, is to make sure that they are in good standing. You want to make sure that their bylaws have been updated and that they've been done in the last 3 years. At this point, given that we're basically at the beginning of October, they should have at least 25 paid members, which can be checked in givebacks. You want to make sure that that's been done. I know there are some units that are in more rural areas where they will have to make sure that they have that number, but by this point in the year, generally they should be able to have that. They want to make sure their insurance is current, that their aim is paid for this current year. I do know, because I did speak to a couple, that the timelines are different. Some of them have due dates in November. That's fine as long as they pay by the time that they have that come up. It's not a problem. They just don't want to let that expire. So it's not that they have to pay something well in advance. As long as it's active currently, they're fine. Their 501c3 status, they want to make sure is active. Their officers need to be updated with the current school year in givebacks to make sure that they have that accurate, especially since most of them had elections back in the spring, right before school ended. So a lot of times getting that information updated, it's not maybe the first thing that they remember to take care of, but they want to make sure that that's also taken care of. And then new this year, as of SLC, president and treasurer of all units have to have completed the new financial accountability training. And that is absolutely crucial. They cannot participate in reflections if they have not participated in that. So if they did not participate in what has already taken place, they should and they want to participate in reflections, you want to make sure that they contact the office immediately and that they get that worked out. Because we would hate to have them apply or have their students apply to only find out that these things did not take place. That would be really, really sad. So the art categories, as I said before, there are 6 art categories: dance choreography, film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. I will go into a little bit more later about picking and choosing and things like that, but those are the 6 that are covered in Reflections. So how do units get started? Because the biggest thing that I know that has happened for me when I've gotten phone calls and emails and things like that from units, they're very overwhelmed. And even my own unit, we're new this year to Reflections. We've not taken part in it previously either. And the first question is, well, how do we even start this? It just seems very, very overwhelming. There's too much. I went on the website was overwhelming, and then they just want to X out and say, forget it. So my whole thing has been take it 100 steps backwards. Let's make this super, super simple. First of all, figure out what categories you're going to do. And you know what? It's your first year. Do 1, do 2. You don't have to participate in 6 categories. You don't. And that can be very, very overwhelming. So pick the ones maybe that the school has the most participation in. A lot of times visual arts, music composition, literature are easy ones for schools. Sometimes even dance choreography, because a lot of kids at the school will take dance outside of school. So let them understand that they don't have to jump in with everything in and participate in all of it. It's not necessary that they do that. It can get incredibly overwhelming, and they don't have to do that. Again, they have to let National PTA know that they're participating by enrolling. That's one of the first things they have to do by filling out their form. They should review the guidelines and the rules on the website. There's a step-by-step guide on the New York State website. The QR code is on one of the previous slides I had just shown. And they should go through that. It gives a very simple step-by-step for them so that they can read through that and figure out what they need to do. Get people together to be on a Reflections committee. One of the best things about this, I can tell you, speaking from personal experience at our unit, we actually found a Reflections chairman who was not on the exec board. We found a Reflections committee of people that were not currently, not only not exec board or on the board or on other committees, but they really weren't even participating majorly in PTA yet. They were people in the arts at our school who hadn't been participating because they didn't have a whole lot of time, but maybe they were in theater or in dance, or they work at a library or something else, and they didn't have a lot of time. But when they heard that we were doing something like Reflections and they heard what it was about, they got interested. And so our Reflections chairman said, hey, you know what? You don't have to put in a lot of time, but how about you come and help us? And I'll go through later what the different areas they can help with. Maybe in promoting, maybe in helping us find judges, maybe in making a celebration committee on how we're going to celebrate. So getting those people to be on that committee will help a lot, because it takes the ownership off of the exec board, who feel very, very overwhelmed. So you as region people, helping them understand that, because if unit presidents reach out to you and say, we want to do this, but we're really overwhelmed right now, like we can't take on something else, make them understand if they find other people in their schools who are not as active in PTA, they might find somebody in the arts who just didn't realize there might be another area of PTA that they could participate with and get excited about. And recruit judges for entries. So obviously, yes, they need to get judges. And here's the thing about the judges. I've heard this also from units. They get very nervous about who those judges need to be. You know, they want the judges, they think they need to be professionals in every industry. They need one judge in each area that they're participating in. It's not like that. And you guys can be their guide for all of this to help them understand it's okay. How about you find if you are an elementary school, you could find a high school arts teacher that would be happy to be one of the judges. Maybe there's a librarian locally that could help out, a music teacher that teaches at a music school locally, or a dance teacher. These people can all help them. And again, it makes these units feel like it's a less daunting task to get involved in reflections and want to get them to participate, because obviously that's what we want. The more units that participate, the more exciting this will become and the bigger program it will become, which is exciting. So how can you guys help? Which is what I was basically saying. You guys are the first contact and the frontline support for all these PTA units. Every time I've had any unit contact myself, I have referred them right back to you guys. They need that support. They need the support to know there's somebody that they can reach out to, that can hold their hand basically and make them feel good about what they're doing, because they're nervous. A lot of the new ones are nervous. People who've been doing this a long time, they're not going to be the ones to reach out to you as much unless they have a specific question. But generally the ones that we want to grab are the ones who have not done this before. And those are the ones that are going to need a lot of hand holding, and they need you guys to help with that. You can help by reaching out to principals. You can help by reaching out. We have in our school, we have a district arts coordinator, and we went and met with her, and she was happy to get word out to district principals to try to get information to them. So you can meet with them. Obviously PTA unit reflection leaders, PTA unit presidents, those are people who are obviously more straightforward. Those are the people that you're going to want to reach out to. And then being active on your region PTA social media, which is important, and shouting out about reflections. New York State website has been, and social media has been promoting it. Share what they have. Reshare those posts onto your region social media. That's a great way to start. And then, getting that, maybe sending it to, if you know units that you're able to send that to, send that post to them so that they have it. And then that way they have a post that they can use. Sometimes they need help with the social media as well. Like they don't know what to post. I've heard that a lot. So if you guys create a post and you send it out to all of the units in your area and say, hey, we made this little flyer, or we made this little post that you could put up on social media. If you guys want to use this, feel free to share. It makes them feel a little less nervous, and it makes the whole process seem less daunting. And then if they're still nervous and they have a lot of questions, I will be doing another reflections webinar for them on October 16th, which I'll talk about later. And you can promote that to them. It gives them a place where they can come together, ask questions, get more information. It will be later. Obviously we don't want to wait till then to get them started, because that's weeks from now. But if they get started and then they start to get nervous, or they start to have a lot of questions, it'll be a good sort of midway point for them to be able to touch base with some people and be able to ask questions. As far as a checklist for you guys, as we talked about, reaching out to the principals and all the leaders in the region, securing judges. Not only do you want to talk to your units about securing judges, but if you are a region reflections chair, you want to make sure that you are securing judges for yourselves, because once all of those winners come in, you guys are going to have to make sure that that's all judged in a timely fashion and turned into New York State. And you basically have, based on what you've selected as your deadline, about a month to turn it around. So it's a tight timeline. So now's the time to start to figure out who are your judges, who are those people going to be, and make sure that they're ready to go. So yes, while you're promoting and helping and getting the units ready and more comfortable and all that, you have a secondary job as a reflections leader to make sure that you guys are ready to go as well. You want to make sure that you have a plan sort of in your head. If you've done this before, then obviously you know the entries, once the judges get them back to you, will have to get advanced to New York State. If you've done that before, then that's an easy process. If you've not, you're going to want to read up on that and sort of know what you're going to have to do when the time comes. And then coming up with a celebration event for your region winners. Are you going to have a celebration for everybody that came up to you that was a winner from all your units, or are you only going to celebrate the winners that win from the region that you're advancing up to state? That's a decision you'll have to make. But you want to make sure that you have a plan for that as well. And if you need help with that, that you get people that will help you for that. When units come to you and say, well, okay, how many people do I need on my committee, and what should they be doing? And because that's a big question. They don't know. They just say, okay, I can get people together, but I don't know what they do. When I get them, what should they do? Well, it's always easier when people have a job. So because if they ask people and they say, sure, I'll help, but what do you need help with? Well, someone could be your social media person that could help get, not necessarily they're going to get on your social media for your unit, because generally there's always somebody for that unit that's going to be that social media person. But you say to them, no, you're going to need somebody to create whatever's going to get out there to publicize, whether it's going to be a poster you're going to put up in the schools, whether it's that person is going to go and try to talk to the Board of Ed about getting something out. Whatever it is, that person's going to be your rah-rah person that's going to get word out to all the parents and tell them that we're doing reflections this year. You're going to need somebody who's going to help find the judges. So again, you're going to have to tell them, you're going to want to make sure they have somebody that can do that. Maybe you have somebody, or they have somebody that can help with all of the techie stuff, like getting all of the judging rubrics and all the stuff together, so that when it comes time to advance all that to all of you, they're the one that's going to take care of all that and make it easier. And then someone who's going to put together the celebrations, because at a unit level, a lot of times, especially at this point, they may not want to create a whole separate budget for reflections if they've not done it before and they don't have a budget for it. So how can they do this low budget this year? That's something I'll discuss with them at the next webinar. But it's something you could say, well, yeah, okay, but you need somebody that's going to come up with an idea or run out and get donations of cupcakes or whatever it is that can come up with a way to celebrate, whether it's everybody that entered or whether it's just the people that you decided were going to win and be advanced to region. Obviously, there's different age groups. Most of you are familiar with the age groups, so I'm not going to go through all of that right now. Every student needs to have completed the entry form. You want to make sure that the units understand this. They have to have a fully completed entry form. The parents need to sign that form. And then bigger than that, because there is confusion on this, the student not only is creating the artwork, but they also have to have a between 10 and 100 word artist statement about how that piece of art refers to the theme. So how it relates. So you want to make sure that the units understand that they have to explain that to these parents, so the parents understand. Otherwise, they're going to have a big headache when all this gets turned in and it's not done properly. I had a question today come in about how does all this get submitted? Obviously you want to make sure when you're talking to units that you explain to them they need to have an email address that everything is getting submitted to, and that the artwork is going to be submitted to them through there with an attached form, so that everything is in one, so that you will have all of it in one place and nothing gets lost. And then obviously promote everywhere. Different levels of school have different ways to promote, right? So you've got elementary schools have, whether it's morning announcements with whoever makes those announcements in your school, whether we have something called Parent Square where we can get it sent out through there. We can backpack home flyers. things like that, and social media. High schools have morning announcements on TV that students do, and a lot of times they love to have things like this where they can promote it. So if you can get the high schools to have the students promoting it on their morning news announcements, that's a great idea. You know, again, these are pieces of advice you can give to the units because they are greatly in need of advice if they're new right now. And I tell you this because they are asking me and I'm trying to help them out as much as I can, but also refer them back to you. So any sort of ideas that you can give them for how to get word out, especially beyond just their Facebook and their Instagram, which, you know, some of them are doing, but they're saying, well, but it's not enough. What else should I do? As far as submissions, this year, submissions are only going to be accepted virtually going forward. There has been a mix in the past of how submissions had been accepted. Starting this year at New York State, submissions will only be accepted virtually. When it comes to celebrations, if you would like to accept a physical piece of artwork to celebrate it and display it, that's a different situation and that's fine. However, broken pieces of 3D ceramic sculptures of a 6-year-old is just something that is not, I am sure none of you want to have to witness. Not to mention the fact that you have situations where something like 3D ceramic sculpture gets to be witnessed physically, but then something like dance choreography has to be submitted virtually, and then you have a flat vision of something. To make it an even playing field straight across the board, the easiest way to do that was to make it all virtual. So for judging purposes, all artwork will only be accepted virtually. And again, when it comes time to celebrate it, so for units, you can let them know when they're celebrating their winners, whether it's at the unit level, region level, they are more than welcome to have that piece of artwork there physically. If they choose to take on that risk, that's fine. But as far as for judging, it will only be virtual this year. They'll want to make sure that their judges, when they're talking to them, and same for you guys when you are handling your judges at region, understand the deadlines and how tight those deadlines are so that they know how much time they're going to have to turn everything around. And then obviously everything will have to be organized by scores once everything is finished. Here, there are 2 QR codes here on this page you can see. One of them will take you directly to the application if you need to have that. Now, there was some question, so I want to just address it really briefly about the application this year. There are 2 different applications floating around. One is New York State's application and one is the national application. A question came up because at one point the New York State application was up on the website and there was someplace else where people were finding the national application. If the national application is the one we are using currently, and it is the one that if you click on the link, you will get. But because some people did get the New York State application for this year, that is fine. We're not going to ask any parent or anyone that got a hold of that application to have to rewrite the application. We will accept either application for this year. It's fine. And going forward, we will make sure that it is streamlined everywhere. But if people are asking you which application they should be filling out, which for students I'm talking about, not the national application that you're applying to participate. I'm talking about the students and the one that they are applying with. It is the one that National puts out, and the QR code is right here on this screen. Celebrations. We like celebrations. These are fun. It's up to the units. You could tell them they can celebrate how they want. One of the best ways to let a unit celebrate, a new unit that hasn't done this before, invite them to a PTA meeting. Because as we all know, I'm sorry, the people that participate in reflections don't have to be PTA members. So if they don't have to be PTA members, why not invite them to the meeting? Have their child perform or display their artwork at the PTA meeting, let them attend the meeting, see how wonderful PTA is, and then get them to join. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone. Plus, then you don't have to have, you're not going to charge them to come to a meeting. You're not going to charge admission to come to see this celebration of the arts anyway. It's obviously just a big celebration. They can get, hopefully, donations to fund, their fundraising person either can do it, or their committee, their reflections committee, can get donations, maybe some cupcakes, things like that. And they do it at their PTA meeting, and it's done in a nice little celebration like that. And then maybe they get more members that way. It can be announced on social media. Again, a great place to have it. I think the schools, it's a wonderful way for schools to get recognition. They should be announcing who's going to be moving on to the next level. Units, their schools should be announcing who's moving on to the regions. I think that's wonderful. And obviously making, when you guys go to advance up to state, once those units are made aware, then they can again let the schools know that, wow, how exciting. Now, once again, this student not only won for our unit, now they won at the regional level. They're moving on to New York State. I mean, it just gets more and more exciting. And like we said, about showcasing their artwork. When you're talking to the PTA units about advancing the entries that they will advance, the ones that win, you want to make sure that every piece of artwork that they advance, they have a copy of before they advance it. That they do not advance you the only copy they have, because God forbid something happens to that. Oh, that would be a sad day for the 5-year-old that does no longer, that no longer has their poem that they wrote that, was so beautifully written. For those of you that are not as familiar, every PTA unit will be able to advance 1 or 2 student entries for each of the divisions and each of the areas. So let's say music composition in UPK to 2nd, they can advance 2. Same thing going all the way up in every different age division and every different area of the arts, and then 2 for accessible arts. When PTA unit leaders say to you, well, this still seems really overwhelming. I understand. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, but I'm still really overwhelmed. Or it's, you've helped them as much as you can, and they go off and they start, and then they immediately come back to you and they've got 100 more questions. They are more than welcome. I would love to see them on October 16th. At this webinar. It will be a great opportunity for them to go through their questions, for me to be able to go through more details with them, to sort of do like reflections for dummies kind of thing, especially at unit level, because they're the ones that are starting out for the first time. And like I said, I have spoken to a lot of them already who have directly reached out to me. They just kind of jumped up to me for some reason, and I've jumped them right back down. And given them all your names, because it's the best way. They need to have your contact. They need to be talking to you guys directly, not me. But I have obviously given them answers to whatever their questions are. And a few of them I've spoken to on the phone just to give them brief answers when they've needed them. But this will give them an opportunity to have more time, and then also hear from others what their concerns are and things they're doing, sort of a networking in a sort of a way with other people that are doing the same thing. There is also, I will say this, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this too, but on Facebook, there's a Reflection Leaders group on Facebook that you can join. And there's a lot of great information in there. It's not just New York State, I will say that. So you have to be careful when you get all excited about certain things, because I sometimes see things and I was like, oh, that's wonderful. And I was like, oh, wait, I have to stop because different rules in different states. So just remember when you're reading these things that sometimes it does not refer to us because they have different rules and policies in different states. But there are not only some fabulous ideas, but people are exchanging like, here, have a Canva, here, have a flyer, and they'll make it so it's editable even. So there's just one, and they're wonderful people too. They're so sweet. I mean, some are region leaders, some are, I think there are some state leaders in there. There's definitely unit people in there. And it's a really wonderful group. So I think I can get you guys the name of it, but it's like Reflection Leaders, PTA Reflection Leaders or something like that. And it's a really great group. So you might want to take a look at that if you get a chance. I think I've covered most of everything at this point, but I'm sure you guys maybe have questions, and then that will bring up other points from there. So I wanted to open the floor to questions.
Hi, it's Jen Leary from Suffolk.
Hi, Jen.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have just a couple of questions. The first is when I told people to go onto the New York State website and register there. Is that taking them to the national registration, or are there two different?
Yes. So the link now on the New York State website is the link to the national registration form.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. And then one other question. How many judges should there be? Is it just one per category, or should there be multiple?
There should be about 3 to 4 total judges. You don't necessarily have to have one per category. You can have the judges judging overall. Especially at unit level, they're not going to have the ability to do it like that necessarily. So if you get 3 to 4 judges that are going to judge in an overall sense, you can do it that way.
Okay. And then is there like a rubric that everyone uses, like a standard rubric, or I just make my own?
I will be covering a lot more of the judging stuff. I actually, in the interest of time tonight, because obviously if I go into all the judging, this whole webinar will go on for a really long time. And I wanted to sort of just start tonight with getting everybody going. But there is a rubric, there are score sheets. They are available on the New York State website, and I will get more information out about the judging process going forward. I will touch a little bit more on it in the October webinar. I don't want to do too much tonight because I had a feeling it would just end up going on and on and on, and it would bring more questions and more questions.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Marie Giletti from Nassau Region. I have a question. When they do put in for the national, do they send an email back stating that they received their, that they received the registration? Because I've had so many people call me. I don't know if they got it. They registered 4 or 5 times. Do you know if National has worked it out to send back a response like, yes, you're registered, or we have a registration for you?
So we've been getting updated lists from nationals of who is registered. You're talking about which units are registered, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, when they register with national, right? They have to register.
The unit, you mean?
The unit has to register,
okay. Yeah.
but they don't know whether they did it properly, if it went through. There's nothing to say we got your registration. Like, even if they just had a response, it would be helpful because we have so many entries. That's my number one question.
Right. Ellie at National is a wonderful resource and she's very, very available to talk. And I can get you, I mean, they can certainly check with her to make sure she received their application. I can look into getting her email address to everybody so that everybody has that
It's
because,
in the chat. Programs@pta.org.
I'm sorry, Kathleen?
I just put it in the chat for everyone. Programs@pta.org.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Kathleen just put Ellie. So Ellie is works up at National and Reflections is what she does. And she's amazing. She's wonderful. She's sweet. She's great to talk to. She does all the arts up there. And if you are or they are not sure if she has received their application, they can write to her directly and she will respond. She responds very quickly.
Okay, and the other question I had is now that they have that the presidents and treasurers have to do the financial accountability, is there access to a report? So we know that they submitted that? Like, how would we know? They can tell me, yeah, we did it. Or is there, through state, is there an act, a report that we can check to see, yes, that was, because that's one of the things in good standing. So is there somewhere to double check that?
I am not.
Jennifer, it's Kim. I can actually answer that.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Yes, Kim
That's
is on
okay.
with us tonight. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm doing 2 Zooms at one time here. So if you contact the office, if you contact compliance at nyspta.org, or you contact Theta, and she's not in the office this week, so I found out today how to do it, then we can go through and check the list to make sure.
So we have over 300 units. I
Yep.
gotta call state for everyone to make sure they're in compliance?
Nope. Full disclosure, this thing is somewhat of a pain in the butt.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I'm calling it what it is. But I think they're working on something at the
Okay.
office to do this because that would be extremely difficult. And I know they realize at the office that that would be very difficult to have to constantly, for all these units, call in and double check. And I think Theta she would probably quit and I would cry and it would just be a mess. So we are trying to come up with something a little streamlined, at least for now. If you need to know, just let us know. That's really the last we talked about it at the office.
Okay, only because, I mean, when you have your bylaws, there's a report that says the bylaws are, you know what I mean? Like you have things
Yep.
in place for everything else you're asking us to do, but now that's not, like, if that's going to be a criteria, then they should have had that in place before they made you call. Because we have a lot of entries, and if they just say they did, I have to verify that they did to be in good standing. This is not going to be easy for us.
No, I can, hold on, because I'm writing this down. I can go back because we have a staff meeting on Wednesday also, well, Theta won't be there, but I will ask and get you a good answer. And what I will do is I will let Jennifer know so she can email everyone that was on the call.
I appreciate that.
answer.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Sorry, Jennifer.
No, I appreciate, this is why I'm glad you're on the call tonight.
I just had a quick correction. I misspoke. It's reflections@pta.org for Ellie at National's email address.
Thank you. Other questions?
When you say submitting the art virtually, is it just they're taking a video of their artwork?
So it depends on what it is. In visual arts, if you look on each, because it's all broken down on the site, each different area of art. So like in visual arts, it'll talk about, like say in 3D art, it'll tell you that it needs 3 photographs of different angles of the artwork.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it just depends on what it is. In dance choreography, yes, it would be a video of the artwork of the dance. So each one will be different. So yeah, depending on what it is, maybe what you want to do is make sure that each one of those breakouts of how the artwork has to be submitted is given to the units so that they're familiar with what they're going to be looking for, so that they have the correct, so that they can advise the students really ahead of time on how to turn it into them properly.
I'm sorry, one more question. On
No,
the
it's
student
fine.
entry forms, since it's got to be, virtually, digitally, can the units put in their student entry form that the parents sign digitally? Can they digitally sign the forms since everything has to be virtual? Because you're asking them to sign a form, paper form,
Correct.
but can
Right.
they digitally sign, like if they made one digital, can they digitally sign the form?
That would be it. Is Kim still here? Because that's more an office question again. So Kim, did you hear the?
Yep, I heard the question. Hold on, I'm just turning down the other one. I believe you can. If you're taking virtual only, preferably you would have the parent sign and then just scan it or even take a picture of the form, send it in. I know, not everyone I know has an iPhone, but on iPhone, Notes scans documents. But if they really can't, someone was just said, okay, if they really can't, then I think the signature would be fine electronically.
Okay.
I can again add that to my list of questions
Okay,
to
thank you.
double check. Okay.
Other questions?
Hi,
Oh, I can't hear you. I
You're
think you're
muted.
muted.
can you hear me?
Oh, now I can.
Hi, Jessica Finnegan from Central Hudson. Is there a way for us to see like which units have registered, like in our district region?
Again, if you want to try to find out exactly which ones, you'd have to ask National.
Okay,
So you can reach out to Ellie and ask her,
okay,
just let her know which ones you're looking for. If you're asking in a general sense, she does have a breakout on there because she does it through Excel. So she might be able to do it for you based on where they are. If you
okay,
say it's this region, she may be able to break it out that way for you. But she would be the one because all those registrations go directly into her.
okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm back on again. I just wanted to clarify something because I just heard it. The registration, a unit does not have to register with National in order to participate. We highly, highly recommend it and push for it because Reflections is a national program and they are trying to keep up with how many entrants and how the program is actually doing nationwide. So I just, as far as I'm concerned, tell your units, yes, you need to sign up because it's insanely helpful and it helps with the data so we can tell nationally how many units are signing. But I just worry that if a unit didn't know and decides to do it and they didn't register and then they panic thinking, oh my gosh, we can't participate, but everything else is in place. That's it. I'm sorry.
I have a question. So if the unit doesn't, how would if they don't sign up, then how would the students' entries be judged? Kim, come back. Hi.
Just
Back.
to clarify, are you asking, how would they be judged at region level or how would they be judged at national level?
Yeah. So if the unit isn't, if they don't submit, because I thought the units had to submit, I must have misunderstood that. So if the units don't submit to participate, then how would, let's say a student wants to, I know they can join local schools, but what if other local schools aren't doing, like, how would that work then if the student wants to participate and the unit isn't registered to participate?
Well, if a student wants to participate, but the unit isn't registered, then if the school itself, the school unit is doing reflections, but really just did not know if they needed to register or not, it's not going to be too late anyway, so they still could do it. So let's say you have a brand new board at a unit and they say, you know what, I heard about reflections and I really want to bring this to our school, but because they're brand new at it, they didn't know that they were supposed to register. Then they're going to get, all of our units are going to get information from state and from the regions anyways. So you're going to keep pushing this anyways, but you could say, okay, yeah, if you would like to participate, that's great. Because as a region, you're going to also ask them, you're going to say, you're going to ask them if they're participating anyways, because you're going to kind of need to know. But yeah, that, I hope that answered.
So they
And if they,
actually do it, just it's not too late to do it just because.
yes, it's not too late to do it. And if you have, and I think Jennifer covered this, if you have a student at a school that knows about reflections, but their unit is not doing it, then at that point, the unit would maybe contact the region, so the region can maybe help them to see if there's another school that they could participate with.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I cleared that up. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, Kim just mentioned something which I think I actually covered it at SLC, but I don't think I said it tonight. So let me just make sure I clarify this tonight, which is true, which is if there's a student at a unit that wants to participate in a particular style of art. So let's say a school is just starting out and they only want to do 2 areas of art and they say they're going to do music composition and visual arts. And a student comes to that unit and says, well, I want to do dance choreography. And they say, well, we're not doing dance choreography. They can reach out to you to get your help to find a school in your region that would help let them participate with them in dance choreography. So they would take them on as their entry in dance choreography and judge them as part of their unit. But then they'd be participating as their unit. So if they win under that unit, they're winning under that unit as themselves, obviously, but they're winning for that unit, not for their unit. Does that make sense? It does make sense. Okay. So I make sure I'm clear. It can be confusing, but there are a lot of kids that may happen to the minute units start saying, well, we're only doing 1 or 2 areas of art. And there are kids that want to do different ones, especially at the high school level and things like that. There'll be kids that will want to do other areas. So we want to make sure we offer them an opportunity to find other units that will help them out. In other words, there's lots of times, sister schools and things like that in the area that will say, sure, come with us. We'll enter, you got, you can enter through us. It's fine. Other questions? None?
Hi, Jennifer. Could I ask a question?
Please. Sure.
In terms of the winners' work, I'm new to this as a region level. Are we allowed to actually post their physical work on social media publicly, or would it only be the names of the winners if we wanted to congratulate them or advertise that they won?
I mean, you need permission from a parent, obviously.
Right, that's what I wondered. Yeah.
But,
Okay.
A lot of times you will get that, especially if it's something like this, because they'll want to be celebrated. But yes, I would
Okay.
definitely make sure you have that permission
Okay.
to put it out there. It's one thing to do a celebration of the arts as an evening of artwork. It's another thing to suddenly be putting it out on social
Yeah.
media, especially with their name and things like that.
Okay.
If they don't want their name displayed, that they go to a certain school or things like that.
Sure.
So I would double check, but I more often than not, I think you'll find that if they're participating in something like this, they will.
They're
go
fine
along
with it.
that. Yeah, but again, you don't want to err on
And
the
just
side
to
of
be on the
caution.
safe side,
when it
I would
comes to
run
things
the
like that.
names by your principal just to ensure that none of them are on
Okay.
there.
Yep.
Yes,
So,
yes, that's exactly.
okay, great. That's good to know. Thanks.
Sure.
Oh, Jen, you're muted. Jen Walowitz.
There we are. Is some of that permission included in the student entry form? I'd have to go back and read exactly what they're signing off on, but when the parent signs that form, does
I
that
think
include something about using, using the
their
information for
artwork.
promotion or for celebrating, and would that cover that?
That's a really good question, Jen, and I actually think you're right. I remember reading something about that. I think it is, but I don't want to give an answer on that without double checking. So
Sure.
I am going to double check that, and I made a note of it.
Okay.
And I can get back to everybody on that, about whether or not it's on the actual application. But
Yeah.
it just makes me nervous with schools, especially these days, and how they are about that list that they get through the district about, it's usually more for the child's face, putting the child's face on something, not maybe, a piece of artwork. But if their name is going to go there as well, that could also be a question mark. So I know we just had a situation actually at our unit where we had we recorded something for New York State, and there was a child and it was as a group, and we sent permission slips home. This was for PTA, and the child was on that list as not being no photographs, no recording, but the mother sent back a permission slip saying she could do this, but the school said no, they wouldn't even allow her to do it because they didn't want to risk it because she had previously signed something else that said, when it came to school, there was no publicity with her. So I think let me double check to be sure what I'm saying before I tell you for sure a rule about it. Kathleen?
I just checked actually,
Oh,
and
thank
it
you.
says, and I will quote that essentially, I'm going to speed up, but the parent and the student are both giving their permission and consent that PTA may display, copy, reproduce, enhance, print, sublicense, publish, distribute, and create derivative works for PTA purposes. So basically, you're covered, whatever you do with it.
Well, the work, but
Yeah,
not the
so that
child's
means that
face,
so if you're
name.
going to copy it and you're going to display it online, that would be covered.
Okay. But I think the question comes if we're going to like put Susie Q next to her artwork and say, look, she did this beautiful whatever, and here she is. That's where I think the question comes into play.
Mhm.
So I understand what you're saying. Yes. So the artwork itself can be displayed, and
Yes.
that's what it's releasing, but it's not necessarily releasing the
Mhm.
idea that you can put the
The
child.
student's identity.
Correct.
Mhm.
Brittany?
I think like the PTA is covered legally basically by having that, but there are students that have like domestic violence and sorry, I work in the social work field. So like there's domestic violence and there's all those other things going on. So I think it's just better to check for those reasons, but
Yeah,
the
always just
PTA,
run it past the principal, I would think.
right. So like the PTA just doesn't have liability by signing the form. So yeah,
So yeah, I guess the long and short is yes, the artwork itself can always be displayed. We have permission for that no matter what. But when it comes to, celebrations where you might want to take a picture, display it on social media with the child next to it, things like that, that's when you're going to want to make sure you check. Hopefully that helps. Other questions? Is there anything that's missing that wasn't covered or that you think you'd like more information on? Hopefully I covered most everything. Hopefully this was helpful tonight. I hope I gave you guys a lot of information and starting points for those of you that haven't done this before. If you have done it before, it may just be new information, with these new little policies here and there that you need to, put in. But for the most part, it should be, the same information. But I'm excited. I'm just excited to see a really great reflections year. It seems like there's a lot of new people that want to sign on, and that makes me excited, and it makes me want to just be there for all of them. The hard part is I'm one person, so that's why I'm counting on all of you guys. And the biggest thing I can say is please get out there to your units, get out there to your principals, get out there and just really shout it from the rooftops because we really need to build this program to be as great as it can be, especially with I belong as a theme. Are you kidding? That's a gimme theme. It's the best theme ever for kids. I mean, when I asked my son, I said, have you ever felt like you don't belong? And then do you remember that moment when then it made you feel like someone or something helped you feel like you did belong? And he just looked at me and he was like, and he's 6, and he was like, yes, yeah, I do. And I think it's just a relatable theme all the way down to those UPKers. It really is. It's a theme that they can all really attach themselves to. So really for you guys, it's getting the units on board, and it's just making them feel like they can do it. Like they can do it. It's not going to be too daunting, and we're all there to help them no matter what. So if there's no more questions, I will be back again on October 16th. I welcome you guys back as well. So please come again. Again, that will be for units that night. I will take unit reflection leaders. I will also take exec board if they want to come. Some of them sometimes act as reflection leaders, so they're welcome to come. I don't want to take every PTA member from that, but the exec board that are doing that, they are more than welcome to come that evening. And all of you again are welcome to come back again if you would like, and address, maybe more details that have come up in the time since we met tonight. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And it was great to meet all of you, at least virtually. Hopefully I'll see some of you at convention. That'll be nice.
Thank you. It was a great meeting.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you, everyone. Have a
everybody.
great night.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night and thanks.
Purnima, did you have a question?